He's pulling off the trunking.
Surely need a longer wire. Yep. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay. They're supposed to, Abid is there, him. Yeah. He bought them from Dar Makkah. Everyone that's staying behind, inshallah, do come close as usual. Yeah?
There's one for the other student, but there's one more.
Inshallah, barakallah fiik.
I'll get more when I go to the next.
Inshallah. You know what I like about these copies? They have the old feel. Basically, they are organized, but not organized in the modern sense. Modern sense in terms of once a chapter finishes, you start a new chapter like that. Different from this one. This one, the chapter is more like just on a continuous loop, like that. Yeah. Khair. Okay, shall we begin? Inshallah. You're comfortable where you are? You want to come closer? Inshallah. I hope we're not going to make it long as last week, a bit the week before the last, inshallah. But we're going to cover at least some ground, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem, hopefully. Huh? No, this is the fourth class. How do you stick this together? Sometimes you don't need a washer.
Yeah, you don't need a washer.
It's too short.
Yeah. All right, you can hear me clearly now, isn't it? All right. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم ابسط علينا رحمتك وانشر علينا من حكمتك وافتح لنا فتوح العارفين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم آمين يا رب العالمين. Now, does anyone remember exactly where we stopped? Does anyone remember where we stopped? Okay, did we finish those or not? The nullifiers of wudu, we didn't finish them? Okay. I think my question, the way I'm asking, and according to what I want you to respond back to me as, it doesn't really align together. Okay. We have, I'll make it easy for you. اعلم وفقك الله تعالى أن نواقض الوضوء على قسمين. The مصنف رحمه الله تعالى نفعنا الله به وبعلومه, he says, he says what? That nawaqid al-wudu, they are of two types. The nullifiers of wudu are of two types. We mentioned there's which and which? He's cheating on the book. Barakallahu feek. That's what it is. There are those which are nullifiers themselves. We call them ahdath. You know what I really want for this ummah? At the very least, when they say they want to study Arabic, the first thing they do is at least memorize terminologies. I don't want you to memorize the definition of the terminology. I just want you to memorize the word itself. So when you're asked what nullifies your wudu, you would say ahdath. Ahdath is the plural of hadath. Now you don't have to know the single form, plural form, unless you want to become a student of knowledge. But for the awam, don't just delve into English, but at least what? The language itself. You would appreciate it as you move along, inshallah. Okay? Ahdath. Ahdath, they are direct impurity. Basically, they are impure in themselves. And then we said the second type are what? Asbabu ahdath. فَاتَّبَعَ sababa. Allah says in the Quran, sababa. He added that on. What does sabab mean? That which is a reason which leads to something. So those which lead to impurity. If something leads to impurity, would it be impure in and of itself? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. Because it just leads to it, but it doesn't mean it would be. And I'll come to explain it to you, inshallah. I think we covered the ahdath only, but we didn't cover the asbabu ahdath, the second category, did we? Now just a small recap. I'm not going to mention them what we covered. I'm just going to mention those points that we mentioned. We said the ahdath, there are 5. The actual impurities, we mentioned 5 according to what the musannif is providing us. And he says that even that divides to 2 parts. We said, what are the 2? What are they? Does anyone remember? MashaAllah, beautiful students who have gone silent. What is it, young man? You know the answer? Barakallahu feek. May Allah make you a alim. Ameen. Look, do you remember them? Do you remember them? The 5 of the impurities? Yeah. Barakallahu feek. Madhi, do you remember another one? Wadi, barakallahu feek, another one? Jazakumullah khairan. Al-bawl. Okay, those of 2 types we said, there are those which come from the front passage and those which come from the back passage. It's simply like that. We mentioned other details. A brother came to me after the last class and he told me there was a brother that commented, literally not in YouTube. He commented separately to him and told him, look, why didn't the Sheikh elaborate it even more? Do you know what he wanted me to elaborate? When I was talking about the issue of men doing what they shouldn't do and having things coming from the wrong passage, would that be regarded as nullifiers of wudu? I told him, simply put, you want that? Go to Netflix, there's 18 plus movies. How could you make it more graphic than how it was? Let's be honest. You don't go that far. Al-Muhim, as you know, we said there are 3 which come from the front passage and it's simply like that. Al-Madhiyu, Al-Wadiyu, Al-Bawlu. There's Madhi, there's Wadi, and there's Bawl. We did not mention the others, there's one more mainly. We did not mention that. And there's another, and then there are 2 which come from the back passage. And we said it's excrement, which is Al-Gha'itu, Al-Rihu, and passing wind. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we're only going to focus on the Asbabu Ahdath, because there's so much detail which I'm going to leave out. When the Hashiyah, basically the translation, the explanation of the explanation, when you read the Hashiyah, there's, for example, come to the Mas'alatul Ridda alone. There's Babul Ankiha, the chapter of Nikah. You have to involve that in, fi Mas'alatul Talaq. And then you have to involve that in when it comes to a'mal. And then you have to involve in other issues as well, other aspects, basically family issues. How do you reconcile all of those? And we're going to come to explain those, inshallah ta'ala. I think you're familiar with those. You're familiar with those. You're familiar with those. خير إن شاء الله. Okay. فقال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى ومن الأسباب التي تنقض الوضوء. أما نبدأ أولا وأما أسباب الأحداث. وأما أسباب الأحداث. If you have the text, inshallah, you can look into it. If you don't have the text, where are you at the moment?
I'm just in front of the page. أحداث وأسباب الأحداث.
Yeah, now pass the أحداث and go for أسباب الأحداث.
Okay.
Can you see أسباب الأحداث? وأما أسباب الأحداث. Can you see it? Yeah. Yes. وأما أسباب الأحداث. He says فالنوم, the sleep. وهو على أربعة أقسام. No, sleeping. It divides to 4 parts. There are 4 types of sleep. فيقول هو على حسب الكتاب, على حسب المتن, طويل نوم طويل. He didn't mention the word نوم again. There's a reason. I don't know if he mentioned the word نوم again. He doesn't repeat it, isn't it? The reason why he doesn't repeat it, للفصاحة, for eloquence. When you write a letter, you don't repeat your words all the time. For example, you say, Muhammad went to the masjid. Muhammad prayed Salatul Dhuhr. Muhammad left the masjid. That is annoying.
And this pronoun.
Yes, exactly. Barakallahu feek. We use ضمائر, isn't it? And in this case, ضمائر منفصلة. Is that correct? Jazakumullah khairan. Lakin, over here, what he does, because he said that, is an-nawmu, is sleep, he doesn't repeat the same word again. Sleep, which is like this. Sleep, which is like this. No. Unless if you're explaining it to someone that is just a beginner, who has just started, you repeat that word until they memorize it. Okay? Jama'at al-Khair. If you can memorize programming, which is coding, and then you code websites, which is absurd, how would it be difficult to memorize a simple text? Come on. A text that takes you to Jannah. No, not anywhere else but Jannah. Because you worship Allah properly, you fix your deen, you become a better Muslim. The more you learn, the better you become. That's how it is. That's when you stop coming to the masjid. For those of the brothers, if they're not here, they should hear this. And if they watch this, inshallah, in the future. Someone comes to the masjid, they're wearing shorts and a very short t-shirt. You notice when they do sujood, not let alone forget about ruku', when they do sujood, someone who is behind them, they can literally see the crack of their buttocks. Come. Why do they do that? Because they don't know what awra means. Awra, your private parts according to the Sharia, not private parts according to modern standards, because modern standards is just your front passage, back passage, and not even your back passage. Where the rectum is, and for ladies is just the two nipples. That's it. Khalas. That's what modernity provides us. Lakin what fiqh provides you is totally different. In fact, is even more sane. If you understand that and you do apply it, you will not come to the masjid anymore with a short t-shirt and a very tight trouser that it literally shows your body. You wouldn't do that. Or wear trousers up to your knees and your knees are exposed. You don't do that. The madhab does provide you some leeway, but only with an excuse. But it does not provide you a leeway when you do it on purpose. Understand that. It provides you a leeway, literally some ease when you have an excuse. But when you don't have an excuse, you don't take that. You will be sinning. Bear that in mind. Understood? So what does he provide us? Let's come back to this. He says, Nawmun, I'm going to add the word nawm myself, okay? Nawmun tawilun thaqilun. Sleep which is long. Tawil means long. Lakin under the condition that it has to be thaqil. It has to be heavy sleep. Not any type of sleep. What is heavy sleep? We gave a short demonstration here last week. A demonstration of it is one of the ways you can know. Not everybody snores. Not everybody snores. But when you hear someone snoring, they're asleep. Definitely. Or maybe if you find that you're carrying something, or maybe a book, let's say right now, then all of a sudden it drops. You've gone to sleep. Understood? You've gone to sleep. Or even if nothing drops, but then you're dropping, like literally you're dropping, you've gone to sleep as well. Understood? That's what we call heavy sleep. Now these of what he's going to mention over here, they are all related to zawalul aql. I want to give you a dabit. What is a dabit? I want to give you a rule of thumb. Literally you can summarize these. What we're going to mention are those which relate to the what? The removal of the mind, the losing of the intellect. You lose your intellect, how? Your intellect becomes covered. Istitarul aql. That is the istilah that the ulama use. The actual word that they use is istitarul aql. What is istitarul aql? The covering of the mind. When your mind is covered, then that means your wudu is what? Is invalid. You have to repeat your wudu. One of them is when you fall asleep and your sleep is long, and on top of that is heavy. Because there is long sleep which might not be heavy, and he's going to mention it over here. Then he says, nawmun, as I said the word nawm, I'm the one adding it. Nawmun qasirun thaqilun. Sleep which is short, but at the same time is heavy. Just like the previous one that we mentioned, number 1. And this is number 2, صح? That which is long, but heavy. كذلك ينقض الوضوء. هذا النوم ينقض الوضوء. It does what? It nullifies your wudu. لأن العبرة ماذا؟ ثقل النوم وليس بطوله وقصره. It's not how long it is or how short it is. It's about the heaviness of the nawm itself. Not the weight. You don't take a weight and put it in a scale and then you start measuring. Was my sleep, was quite heavy? You're not going to find that unless you go to a butcher maybe. Understood? Now come to this so you understand. So does it mean it doesn't matter whether long or short, right? Yes, it doesn't matter. What matters is the heaviness of the sleep. Now that leaves us with what? Al-mukhalafa. Al-mukhalafa, mafhum al-mukhalafa is the opposite. Aksu. What is aksu? The opposite of it is sleep which is not heavy, light sleep. But then he says, nawmun qasirun khafifun. Qasir means short. Sleep that which is short, but then it's light. Does it nullify your wudu? La yanqudu al-wudu mutlaqan. When we say the word mutlaq, it means it does not. In any case, it doesn't nullify your wudu. It doesn't matter. Because you might sit here, in 5 minutes, you're tired, maybe you're nodding a little bit, but then everything that's happening around you, you can hear it. Even if it's like an on and off like that, you might not be able to hear everything completely, but you understand. You have a general idea of what's going on, that's fine. You still have your wudu, no matter what position you're in. عند الشوافع قلنا ماذا? What did we say about the Shafi'iyya? The Shafi'iyya normally العبرة عندهم هيئة الجلسة or هيئة الجلوس. Basically, your hay'ah of how you're sitting. Are you literally sitting sideways? Or you're literally sitting on your bottom? If you're sitting on your bottom, then even if you nod, even if you sleep deep, your wudu doesn't become invalid. You still have your wudu. أليس كذلك? You have your wudu. لكن عند المالكية, it doesn't matter what position you're in. You might even sleep like this in the masjid. But as long as your sleep was short and not heavy, then you have your wudu. And that literally makes it easier. You know why? Because you're sure that your mind was there. Not that your mind was lost. No. لذلك we are left with one more now. Because we said divides to 4. And I'm going to ask you about this next week. So you memorize it or you write it down? Yes. I'm literally trying my best for this to be recorded, basically live, to go on live, so that it's not even those who come to watch now. Those who, when they finish the class and they're interested, they can go watch later, inshallah. Understood? Yeah, it's live already, if I'm not wrong.
Is it live now?
Yeah, I think it's live, yeah. Did you switch off the fan? No, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. You can leave the other ones on though. Those which are a little bit far is fine. This one which is behind interferes with the mic. All right, that's fine. Barakallah feek. Jazakumullah khairan. You okay, Sidi? You okay? You all okay? Okay, inshallah. Look, we're left with one more. Naumun tawilun khafifun. Sleep which is long. We said tawil means long. Qasir means short. Thaqil means heavy. Khafif means light. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? This is literally general Arabic. When I say general Arabic, something that I want you all to understand. And inshallah ta'ala, it's going to be another lesson that I teach in Mustafa's Academy. There's a lesson that's coming tomorrow. If you don't follow up, go to YouTube, write Mustafa's Academy, you'll see. The reason why I started free Arabic classes is because brothers and sisters, they are literally demeaning Arabic so much that they only want to study the language by trying to want to speak it. But they don't want to study the language so they can understand their deen. They use this phrase of, I want to study Arabic so I can learn my deen. But they don't understand why they want to study Arabic. I'll be honest with you. Because if you really want to study Arabic to understand your deen, you don't aim to speak first. You aim to understand what you're reading. And I promise you, the Arabic you find in fiqh books, fiqh is not hard because it's difficult to understand its Arabic. Fiqh is hard because you need someone to make you, to allow you, to give you the key of understanding what was meant in the book. What was meant exactly. Bear that in mind. What you are reading what the ulama have done. Now these are the words of the scholars. I'm trying to literally speak as slow as I could and very clearly so you can understand. What the ulama have done, because it's not directly what Allah said and what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not قال الله قال الرسول. كثير ما كتب في الكتب. What is it? It's literally the words of the ulama. Normal people like you and I. When you read fiqh, especially fiqh, let alone anything else, when you read, tafsir is harder than fiqh. I'll be honest with you. Books of tafsir, they are way harder than fiqh. Because when you read tafsir, you're reading a translation and interpretation of Quran. Nobody understands the Quran except for a proper alim. Understood? Like when it comes to fiqh, you will read something and then it says over here, وَهُوَ الْمُعْتَمَدُ فِي الْمَذْهَبِ. Do you think that's hard? Al-mu'tamad means that which is depended upon. It's the strongest qawl. Simple. Fi is in, and wherever you go, it's a harfu jar. It's going to remain to be a harfu jar, and it's always going to mean min. It's going to be in. Its meaning is inside. Basically something inside, like that. Or at. Basically, Muhammadun fil bab. It means what? Muhammad is at the door. If we say fil haqiba, it means in the bag. Do you understand? Now in the book, it's used as وَهُوَ الْمُعْتَمَدُ fil madhab. In the madhab. Simply put. And every time you read like that. Now where does the difficulty come? Perhaps what the text has provided you is not actually the mu'tamad. That's why you need a scholar to tell you, actually no, what the text is saying is correct, but that's not the correct. The akhirul qawl, the last qawl of the madhab, that's not it. The correct qawl from the big books is that this is an accepted qawl of the madhab, an opinion. When I say qawl, I mean opinion. When I say qawl, I mean what? Opinion. Jazakumullah khairan. It is the accepted qawl of the madhab, lakin the strongest one is what? Is so and so and so. لذلك when you read, for example, like this, Ashmawiyah, or maybe you read in the Shafi'i madhab, you read Safinatul Najah, or maybe you read Kitabul Hidayah in the Hanafi school, the very basic text. I forgot the Hanbali one, what they read, but I know one of their main biggest texts is Zadul Mustaqni, and they call it Az-Zad. That's what they read. What I will tell you is when you read these, even if you read the hashiyah of this book, when I say hashiyah, I mean the interpretation of basically the explanation of the book, you still might find that what is provided in the hashiyah literally differs completely from the main text. For example, if you go to Mukhtasar Khalil, which is one of those greatest of texts, the reason why he's shaking his head, he understands everything of what I'm saying. Come often, please. It gives me confidence. Do you get what I mean? So when you go to the actual main book, main text of the madhab, which is the highest of all, basically the advanced of all, because after Mukhtasar you study al-Mudawwana, you notice that actually the mu'tamad is not what this book provides you. لذلك when you find, let's say us, maybe the طلاب العلم trying to explain it to you, you might find, okay, why does the book say this, but then the Sheikh said this? That's when now you need to understand. So I need a teacher to make me understand. So you don't just understand, the books don't open up to you like that. You need to have someone to hold your hand like that. Understood? But if you're reading a book of wa'adh, a book that which just relates to spirituality, read it. You benefit from it. You're not going to lose anything. But not books of fiqh, not books of tafsir, no hadith. Because I'll take you to a hadith, basically to a hadith. How do you reconcile between the two? Mathalan, in one of these, of what we're talking about today, the reasons which lead to the invalidation of what? Wudu. Jazakumullah khairan. So we finished with sleep, isn't it? Al-Musannif rahmatullah alayhi carries on by saying, وَمِنَ الْأَسْبَابِ الَّتِي تَنْقُضُ الْوُضُوء. From among the reasons that literally nullify wudu, we said that we're providing a dabit. A dabit is literally a principle to show you three things that we're going to summarize together which relate to the what? To the covering of the mind. One of them is sleep. The moment you go into deep sleep, khalas, your mind is covered. Your wudu is what? Invalid. Second of it, he says, zawalul aqli bil jununi. It is the removal of the mind. Basically, the sanity is gone of your mind bil junun, with insanity itself. Basically, your mind is titarul aql bi dhihabihi. What does that mean? Your mind is covered by it going away. Basically, you can't. If you're talking to someone right now, there's nothing that you know what junun is. Someone who goes insane. Someone who has become insane, falling into madness, khalas. Khalas. That's why صاحب أسهل المسالك, he made it very short. Very short. This is what he said. أسبابه زوال عقل إما بالجن بمعنى بالجنون أو بالسكر أو بالإغماء. Then he says نوم طويل أو قصير إن ثقل لا خف مع قصر وندبا إن يطول. These two lines summarize أسباب الأحداث. خلاص انتهى. Understood? And then basically when it comes to this, what we're talking about, zawalul aql, the dabit of zawalul aql, the remove your mind going away, these two lines explain this what we're covering. Understood? So when your mind goes, your wudu is gone. What if the mind of the young person who has not reached the age of puberty, if it's gone, in that case, do you say that their wudu is still valid because they're young? No, their wudu is invalid as well. When they come back to sanity, they have to repeat their wudu. So العبرة ماذا؟ ذهاب العقل وليس ماذا؟ وليس سن هذا الشخص. It's not about the age of the person, it's about the going of the mind. Understood? If your mind disappears, then your wudu is gone. When it comes back, that's when now you have to do what? Repeat your wudu. This same issue about your mind going is going to be repeated again, hopefully, maybe, when it comes to salah. Is salah imposed upon you or not? Mathalan, you lost your mind during dhuhr time, but then your mind came back just before the end of asr. Understood? Do you do dhuhr and asr? Or do you do only asr? Or both of them are invalid? Basically, it's not imposed upon you, it's not obligatory upon you, and you just do maghrib. Does that make sense? Or do I need to repeat myself again? Don't shy away. If you want me to repeat myself, I will. Okay. Your mind going. Al-junun mathalan. Isn't it? And we're going to mention another one. It's not about sleep. If your mind goes, let's say your mind goes just the moment dhuhr entered, or even before dhuhr entered. But then it passed dhuhr. Your mind hasn't come back yet. Asr comes in. Your mind hasn't come back yet. You're only left with like 15 minutes and then it's maghrib time. Asr is about to drop. Do you pray, basically, is now dhuhr and asr obligatory upon you because your mind has come back? Or is it not and you just pray maghrib, mathalan, in this case? Understood? There are aqwal over here, which we don't want to get into right now. We're going to come into it when it comes to salah itself. Fiqh is amazing. When you dig into it, it's beautiful. It's very beautiful, trust me. But not many people see the beauty of it. الفقه هذا أولى بالاعتزاز من كل العلوم كما يقول صاحب البطليحية. From all of the ulum that exists, fiqh deserves to be honored at the top. The more you study it, the more you feel. Let me tell you one thing. When you study Arabic, you feel a bit cunning. How do you feel? You feel like you're poetic. You're living in a dreamland. Let's be honest. But when you study fiqh, you feel like a king. You know why? Because you literally have the deen in your hands. And when we say the deen, what did we say? Fiqh is not related only to what we are doing. We said fiqh divides to 3 parts. Does anybody remember when we studied at the very first class, remember? Barakallahu fiqh. We said tazkiyah, which is the last one. The first one is aqidah. The second one is al-amal, which is this one, isn't it? That's what we said. Limadha? Because when you do that, you study the world in and out. When we say aqidah, we're not referring to aqidah, you're Diobandi, you're the shirki, you're kafiri. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about studying the world in itself. If you literally break down aqidah today and you want to know how the world is going, that's when you're gonna now start understanding what is modernity in itself. The true aqidah comes that way. What is modernity in itself? Go back to the seerah. Why is 2/3 of the Quran related to aqidah alone? 2/3 of the Quran, aqidah only. Khalas, nothing else. Just that. So you realize and you break it down with the seerah. So aqidah is not what you and I are discussing about. This is Sunni, this is bid'i, this is... No. That's not what we're talking about. Aqidah is preserving that faith inside you literally takes a lot of hard work. I promise you, especially in this day and age. Because ask yourself this, if a person will fall into riba, basically interest, if a person will fall into lying when it comes to the transacting, why do you think they do that? They believe in Allah, but there's a weakness in their belief. Why so? Because they know that Allah exists, but it's not there. When you know that your belief is firm, knowing that whatever I do, Allah is watching me, and this is literally interfering with my aqidah, you will never indulge into these things. Hence you need, that's why these things are connected. You need aqidah and tazkiyah. Tazkiyah reminds you constantly of whom? The oneness of Allah. And the oneness of Allah always reminds you that you need an anchor. And your anchor is what? Al-amal, ibadah that you do. You see the beauty? It's a cycle like that, inshallah. Coming back to this, he says now the third one, which is the third and the fourth, we're going to put them together. He says al-ighma'u was-sukr, zawalul aqli bil-jununi. Your mind literally is leaving you, imma bil-jununi, with insanity, or with ighma, fainting. Ighma is fainting, and at the same time as-sukr, when you are drunk. Understood? Now when it comes to ighma, it's the same thing as we mentioned. What if this person literally loses his mind? It's simple. You lose your mind by fainting until you come back again, you repeat your wudu. We don't want to get into that. The issue comes here, as-sukr, being drunk. Do you always fall drunk by drinking whiskey and bourbon maybe? Kullu muskirin haram, صح? Yeah, that's the dhabit, that's correct. That's the principle that we're following. Lakin, question is, what if I drink yogurt and I didn't know that this yogurt was fermented for a while? Okay, is it haram? Is the yogurt haram? It's not, isn't it? But then it led to my what? To me falling into being iskar. I don't know how to say in English, I can say in Arabic. I become drunk, isn't it? Simply put, I become drunk. Does my wudu invalidate? Yes, it does. I have to repeat my wudu. But what if I literally drink wine or beer, but then I have not fallen into drunkenness? Do I have my wudu or I don't? Huh? Amazing, mashallah.
No way.
What do you think? اختلف العلماء في هذا. The ulama, they've differed on this, but the correct of the madhab, what is it? Shall we say?
I think I'm not when he was talking to me.
That's fine. No, that's fine. Look, if you drink wine, basically anything, wine, they all have fancy names. Because I've seen a lot of elders watching football and Champions League, they advertise a lot of Heineken, isn't it? Heineken, I don't know, whiskey, bourbon, vodka, all of, isn't it? They all, what is it? Carlsberg. Okay, the Corona. I heard when Corona hit, this brand literally fell to the ground. Al-Muhim, khair inshallah. Hopefully people don't start saying, Imam's now talking about wine, how did they know? Come on, we live in a corrupt country, so how do we not know? Corrupt world actually. Not even a country, corrupt world. Modernity is everywhere. Cultures are disrupted. People can't even speak their own mother tongues. Ask these little children. They might understand what you're saying, but tell them to repeat their own mother tongue, they can't. Honestly, true or false? Isn't it? We're all suffering from that. Al-Muhim, if you drink anything that leads to, you literally know that this is muskir. This will lead to you to become drunk, and it's haram. If you drink it and you don't fall into becoming drunk, your wudu is still valid, but it invalidates because you have a najasa. Understood? Your wudu invalidates because you have a najasa. I hope that's clear. Your wudu does not become invalid because you've fallen into drunkenness. No. You're not drunk. You're not a drunkard. You're not even drunk, but it becomes invalid because of the najasa itself. Basically impurity. Now, in itself, is it impure? It's not. Because Allah said it's impure, then it is impure for that. But you can't compare wine to excrement and urine. No. Can you compare it to those? No, you can't. You can't compare it to those. Urine is different. Excrement is different. But this one, because by Sharia is regarded as what? Najasa. Najis is impure, then it becomes what? An invalidator of wudu. To make it very simple. Understood? So even if you drink fermented yogurt and you did not know, and then it led to you to become drunk, remember your wudu is invalid. And this is a person who became muskir bi tahir. He became drunk with that which is pure. But then there's someone that literally drinks something which is impure and he doesn't become drunk. In this case, what do you say? You can't say that they've invalidated their wudu, but you tell them your wudu is invalid not because of you not being drinking it and you're not drunk, but actually it's invalid because of what? The najasa that you've consumed. Like that. And I think we've closed that chapter. Wait, anything that relates to the mind, we've closed that chapter now. Is that clear? We said that istitarul aql, basically. The dabit is your mind being covered. There are four things. Sleep, and then insanity, and then being faint, basically fainting, which is ighma, and then iskar. What is it? Being drunk. Jazakumullah khairan. These four. Anything related to the... You want to have a question?
I was going to say, with the being drunk as well, what about like intoxicants, like drugs and stuff like that?
They fall into the same category. Yeah, they're all the same. Anything that leads to that is intoxicants and all of those, that's it, they nullify your wudu. That's very clear. Yes.
It's talking about urine. You've got Red Bull, got taurine inside.
Yeah. I can't really talk about Red Bull because I don't really drink it. But as far as I know, for many...
Does it contain any amount of alcohol?
Allahu alam, I'm not sure.
You got taurine. Taurine basically is urine for animal, for cow. Red Bull, yes.
No. You can't say it's haram then. It's diluted enough. Like I'll try my best to answer you. It's diluted enough. Yes.
So you said that the actual taking in the alcohol is what breaks the wudu.
That breaks the wudu, yeah.
So is that the same?
Because you have najasa.
Is that the same for the skin, clothes?
No, that's not the alcohol that we're talking about. This alcohol is manufactured alcohol.
So if the alcohol is on your face or on your hands or on your clothes, is it the same?
No, that type of alcohol, beer, wine, whiskey, all of those, if they're on your clothes and that's impurity immediately. Like when it comes to perfume is called alcohol, but actually it's not even alcohol in terms of this type of alcohol. It's manufactured alcohol specifically for what? For perfume. The ulama have done a research on this and they realized it's not this alcohol which makes you to become drunk. It's actually a very different manufactured alcohol. It doesn't relate whatsoever to this one. Unless you purposely fill in vodka in a bottle and then you start spraying it all over yourself. Yeah, that's different.
They have a percentage of this.
I'm not going to be able to finish if you don't keep your questions first. Keep your questions a little bit. Let's take 10 minutes and finish this off. Understood? Okay. فاستمر المصنف رحمه الله تعالى ويقول وينتقض الوضوء, and your wudu does what? Invalidates بالردة وبالشك في الحدث. He put those two together for a reason. بالردة وبالشك في الحدث. الردة is literally someone apostating. When we say apostating is someone leaving the fold of Islam. Understood? If someone leaves the fold of their religion, let's say you come from Christianity to Judaism, then you've apostated according to that religion. But what we are referring to here is leaving the fold of Islam to another religion, even if it's atheism. Bear this in mind. Someone should not tell you that they're an atheist and think that they don't have a religion. Actually, they do. It's their atheism which is their religion. Do you see how Aqidah comes in? Because they follow their hawa, what they believe is right. Allah mentioned it in the Quran, أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. Have you considered the case of that one who takes their hawa, their desires to become their Lord? Many people literally overcome this verse. They overlook this verse. They say, no, that's not what it's referring to. Actually, that is exactly what it's referring to. Why would you go against Allah's command and you follow what you think is right? How would that be any different from the one who is following their desires? Any different? No. And atheism is all about that. Your Lord is what you follow. Everyone is attached to something, whether we like it or not. A human being is created with attachments. Adam alayhi salam, when he was created, Allah created him and attached him with Hawa from himself. Our mother Hawa was brought to Adam because Adam was lonely the moment he was created. The moment life was placed in his body, he felt lonely immediately. All this life for what? Who am I going to really cherish it with? That's why we have spouses. Because let me tell you this. All of you brothers, as much as we might love each other, we're going to spend time in the masjid and we might even stay here until 2 a.m. But a time will come from that moment, everybody wants to go home. Alaysa kadhalik? When you go home, who do you spend that time with? Your wife, your beloved children. Because you go home, you know, next door my children are sleeping, I'm sharing a home with them. You go home, you literally know in that same bed, I have someone that gives me company. Even if they're asleep, but you have company. It's what is the natural companionship human beings look for. Understood? It's naturally like that. That's why when you lock someone in a room, and then you keep even if that room is well decorated, but if they're alone in there, and they have all the riches and they have no one to discuss with, no one to literally share those experiences with, they fall into insanity. It is natural. Understood? Which means we are attached to something. Whether we like it or not, we have a path we are following. Your path which tells you I am entitled to not wear clothes and walk around naked, that's what you tell, I believe. That's what you tell yourself, that's what you believe. If what tells you you have to wear everything until you cannot even see your eyes in front of you, khalas, that's what you believe as well. So you believe something. But the best of what you believe in is what Allah has given us. Understood? That's why it's ridda, apostasy. When you leave the fold of Islam and follow something else which you become attached to as your path, then you've apostated from one to another. But in this case, definition being defined by the scholars is someone leaving the fold of Islam, taking another path other than that which is Islam, another faith. Understood? So when we say ar-ridda, when someone leaves Islam, now issues related to ankiha, coming to this issue. A person who leaves Islam and they are married, they have children, what happens? They fall into talaq. What is talaq? Divorce. Talaq of two types. There's talaq, basically talaq itself divides to two. There's talaq sunni, talaq bid'i. What is talaq sunni? It's the talaq that you do it according to what the Messenger ﷺ taught us. And there is the talaq which you literally do it not according to the teaching of the Messenger ﷺ. Like you give a woman talaq while they're in their hayd. Basically they're in their monthly cycle. You give a woman talaq like that, yes, it does take place. It is valid, but then you've done what? You've given it to her in the wrong time. That's not according to the teaching of the Messenger ﷺ. Understood? Because she has to be tahira, she has to be clean. Far and beyond, however, you notice that in those two categories, there's one that falls to, basically there's two that fall together. Talaq raj'i wa talaq ba'in. What is talaq raj'i? It's the talaq that you know you still have a chance you can go back to your wife. But that same talaq raj'i can turn into ba'in. But talaq ba'in is that which you know you don't have a way back anymore. Khalas, inta. Now what does ridda do? What does apostasy do? Apostasy, even if you have not divorced your wife by telling her, or even the wife, for example, she falls into apostasy, even by her not being divorced by the husband, that divorce becomes ba'in, basically permanent, immediately. There's no such thing that you can't go back to it. If you come back to Islam and you want to go back to that family, first of all, the lady needs to agree again. And then you have to pay a new mahr. When we say talaq ba'in, it means that everything, the contract, starts again. Like literally again, new mahr, new agreement, new khitbah, new engagement, everything. Even if you had 10 children with that woman, if she calls for a big wedding, she wants a big wedding, you do it. Understood? That's what it means. Basically everything afresh. So the moment a person leaves the fold of Islam, their spouse becomes divorced immediately. And once they become divorced, there's no way you can go back without a new agreement. And that new agreement has to happen when you share the same deen. And beyond that, when you share the same deen, what happens as well, that there has to come up in a new agreement. But then there's something that I want to ask you. What if you leave the fold of Islam and you become a pure Jew or pure Christian from Ahlul Kitab? Does that nikah invalidate or does that nikah remain? I am not. Whether the guy or the lady?
No, because the lady can't marry Ahlul Kitab.
No, it worked both ways.
Huh?
Both ways.
The woman can marry
Ahlul Kitab.
As far as I remember, yes. But I'll come back to you about this. But when it comes to someone falling into becoming Ahlul Kitab, and then does this nikah invalidate? I'm not going to answer you this week. I'm going to leave you with it as a homework. Homework, yes. Think about it. But don't go to Google and then you ask Islam Web and then you come back to me and say, Barakallahu. Yes, Sheikh, Google, and then you say, Sheikh, I found the answer. Nope. Because the biggest Sheikh nowadays is Google. Okay. Another one is a shakku fil hadith. A shakku fil hadith, what is it? Is you doubt yourself if you have fallen into a state of impurity again. Maybe you might have released wind and you doubt yourself, have you done so? Or maybe you went to the toilet to relieve yourself and you're thinking, did I go, did I not go, did I go, did I not go? What happens in this case? Al-asahhu min al-kull, which we will take from the ulama, which will make it very easy, is that it depends on where you stand. You either fall into al-wahm, you only study this in al-mantiq. Al-wahmu, al-shakku, aw al-yaqeen. What is that? Al-wahmu is basically someone falling into the far end of feeling, I am not sure. Basically, you're 20% sure. Have I really fallen into hadith or not? Am I really in a state of impurity or not? Basically, am I supposed to repeat my wudu or not? But a person of shak is literally 50-50. Al-yaqeen, I don't want you to memorize this, by the way. I'm just explaining it to you. Al-yaqeen is someone that is certain. Understood? Now, if you're literally falling onto the side of, you're quite certain you have invalidated your wudu, and then you go to repeat your wudu. Understood? But if you feel like you're more on the side of, I have not invalidated my wudu. In this case, you repeat your wudu if you're not in salah. If you're not in salah. But out of salah you do. But what if you've done this, just to say, what if you feel like this after you just finished a prayer? Do you repeat that prayer? Yes.
How do you reconcile with
How do you reconcile with? How do you reconcile with that?
Yeah.
There's an issue there. دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك. The ulama, they explain, look, yes, something that gives you shak. Do you know what I mean? Like there's another qaida, like al-yaqeen la yazulu bi-shak. Understood? Al-yaqeen la yazulu bi-shak. If you're certain, certainty does not become basically overcome by shak. Because it depends on where you stand on the spectrum. On that thermometer, if you look at it, where do you stand? Do you get what I mean? Because it depends on the position that you're in. I hope that makes it clear. So the hadith, even if it explains it to you, but it's not very, very explicit when it comes to these issues. Because what if you have a very strong feeling, I've fallen into what? Into hadith. How would you pray? Would you literally pray and you're comfortable? You can't. Because you still have it. But then if you have this doubt in salah, it would depend as well your thermometer? Where do you fall? If you feel like I'm certain I have wudu, even if you have that doubt, carry on with your salah. Like if you finish your salah and this happens after you just finished your salah, and then it occurred that you still have your wudu, you don't repeat the salah. But then you certainly remembered, I didn't have my wudu, you repeat that salah. That's clear. But if you're quite certain that you do have your wudu, but then you're like, I'm not sure, did I break my wudu? You let go of that. You let go of that. I hope that makes it a little bit clear. We'll come back to that inshallah. Okay. I'm trying to run against time over here. المصنف رحمه الله تعالى يقول بعد ذلك وبمس الذكر المتصل بباطن الكف أو بباطن الأصابع أو بجنبيهما ولو بإصبع زائد إن حس وباللمس وهو على 4 أقسام. And then he mentions اللمس, and I'm not going to go into اللمس today until the following week inshallah, because it's going to be a bit too much. اللمس is a little bit long. اللمس is touching the opposite gender, touching other parts and that. Although what we're going to talk about right now falls into the idea of what? Al-lams, masturbation and that. But masturbation is too deep, that's too far. We're talking about al-mas. Mas is different from al-lams. Because al-lams basically falls into intention. Mas can be otherwise, whether intended or not. Now what does he talk about over here? He says, وَبِمَسِّ الذَّكَرِ, by touching your ala. What is ala? Your actual organ of your dhakar, your front private part. Now your front private part as a man, you have two pieces. You have the actual organ, the penis itself, and then you have the two testicles, al-unthayayn. Now does the unthayayn nullify your wudu? Does the unthayayn, your testicles, nullify your wudu if you touch them? No, it doesn't. It does not. Understood? Is that very clear, uncle? It does not nullify your wudu, but the organ itself, if you touch it, does it nullify your wudu? The answer is yes and no.
Yes, if you do it by intention. If you do it by mistake, then it doesn't.
Barakallahu feek. Now there's a problem there. Because there's two hadith. Hadith number 1, it says, Man massa, I forgot the hadith, the other one, but it says, Man massa dhakarahu falyatawadda. That's literally a second hadith. Lakin I would make it as one. The first one. Man massa dhakarahu falyatawadda. Even if you read in Bulugh al-Maram, which is the most common Salafi book, basically. The Salafis use it. It's a fantastic book, but it's really abused. I'll be honest with you. A fantastic book, but abused so badly. I'll be honest. Honestly, Bulugh al-Maram, the ahadith provided, they are actually ahadith al-ahkam. Ahadith related to the ahkam of fiqh. Fantastic. Basically close to al-muwatta. Somewhere there. Lakin, the problem is the way it's used. Oh. Yeah. That's not how you use it. You have to use that with using other mutu. Let's say if you follow the Maliki madhab, you use Maliki books, and then you can use this. Lakin mainly we use what? Al-Muwatta for the Malikiyah. For the Shafi'iyah, you can use Bulugh al-Maram. Especially for the Hanbaliyah, because Bulugh al-Maram is Hanbali related. For those who are Hanbali of madhab, write this down. Bulugh al-Maram. And it has a sharh known as Subul al-Salam, Sharh Bulugh al-Maram. Okay? Subul al-Salam, Sharh Bulugh al-Maram. Now, two of these hadith are provided in here. One of them, he says, if you touch your private part with basically for the intention of feeling, or maybe without the intention, but you felt basically some ladha, some desire, some desire while you did so, then your wudu has invalidated. That's hadith number 1. Hadith number 2 is if you just generally, whether you desired it or not, you just touched your organ, then your wudu is invalidated. How do you reconcile the two? An issue came by. The ulama of hadith said, the reason why, especially a hadith al-ahkam, the reason why the first hadith is literally abrogated by the second hadith is because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he narrated the second hadith after he gave this one. So نسخ الحديث الأول بالحديث الثاني. What does that mean? The first hadith became abrogated the moment the Messenger ﷺ came with a different statement which literally does not correlate with that one, which differs from the other one. Which هناك اضطراب بين الأحاديث. I forgot the terms in English. There's a clash between a hadith. There's a clash. Yeah, it contradicts the other hadith. Barakallahu fiqh. It contradicts the other hadith. As long as it contradicts the other hadith, then you have to do this. How do you reconcile the two hadith? So you look at them. When did Rasulullah ﷺ say this? One of the ways, basically. That's not the only way. That's one of the main ways. One of the methodologies of reconciling hadith is looking at when, the tariq, the dates of when the Messenger ﷺ said this and when the Messenger ﷺ said this other one. The ulama say the Messenger ﷺ said the first one, that if you touch for the intention of feeling any desire, even if you did not touch for that but you felt desire, that invalidates your wudu. That hadith was abrogated by this second one because it contradicts this one, and this second one came later in his life. It came later in his life. Bear that in mind. There's another issue where the ulama, they discuss about this, about Allahul Musta'an. I literally forgot. But then there was a contradiction of one of the practices, some of the practices of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he did before, and then he literally did something else by the end of his life. لذلك, that's why you notice Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, the reason why he followed amalu ahli al-Madinah, the practices of the people of Medina, is because he says that these of the Sahaba and the followers of the Sahaba, they literally implement the actual practices of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the end of his life. So what he left behind by the end of his life is what it is authentic rather than that which he did before that. Hence you notice, if there is a different practice in Medina, Amalu Ahli al-Madina now, in Medina, and there is a hadith ahad, mathalan, and this hadith is narrated by someone that literally migrated to Abyssinia, who went to Al-Habasha, basically to Ethiopia, and then he came and maybe met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and did not find this practice within Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam compared to the Sahaba that lived in Medina. In this case, because the Sahaba that lived and migrated with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina, they have first-hand experience, sah? Like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he knows every single step the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam took. Umar ibn Khattab, Uthman ibn Affan, Anas ibn Malik, Abdullah ibn Umar, all of these, they literally saw Rasulullah firsthand. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Basically from the beginning of their lives to the end of their lives, for some of them who were born in Medina, they saw everything of the practice. But then someone from Abyssinia narrates a hadith which literally is different from what the practices of Medina is. Now what do you do in this case? How do you reconcile between the two? Hence you notice Imam Malik would say the amal of Ahl al-Madinah over here takes precedent, basically is stronger compared to this hadith. But he does not say a hadith which is widespread hadith. We call this hadith mutawatir, which is accepted, basically narrated by 3 or more, and say the amalu ahli, the practices of people of Medina comes before. No, never. You cannot claim and say, for those who literally, they bash the madhab. Literally, they attack the madhab, left, right and center, and say, the people of, that's how they define the Maliki madhab. What do they say? They define the Maliki madhab by saying, it's the madhab that take the practice of the Sahaba and not the aqwal of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's not the case. Imam Malik actually, and I mentioned this before, he narrates these hadith in his Muwatta, and he says that I narrate them so that you can see I know them, but I do not work on them. Because what has happened, what the practice of the people of Medina is different from these ahadith. And not every hadith is hadith ahad. Hadith which are narrated by one or two. And not only that, you have to look at the authenticity of the hadith. Where does it stand? Because there will be a hadith, mathalan, hadithun niyyah of Umar ibn Khattab. Every time we read Arba'un al-Nawawiyya and we say, An Abi Hafs Umar al-Faruq Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما الأعمال بالنيات. That indeed deeds are but by intention. We always say that. Do you know that that hadith is related by only Umar alone? You read Arba'un al-Nawawiyya every single day, or maybe the hadith of intention, basically, that our deeds are according to intention, that is narrated by Umar only. But is it disputed? No, because it comes from Umar, and at the same time, not only that, the ulama have said this is muttafaqun alayh. When we say muttafaqun alayh, Bukhari accepted, Muslim accepted, Tirmidhi accepted, every single scholar did accept it. Not just Bukhari and Muslim. Not just Bukhari and Muslim. Every single ulama accepted it. And because the ulama have accepted it, in this case, no madhab can come and say, this hadith cannot take precedence according to the practice of people of Medina. No. That's not what you say. That's why not only by it being narrated by one person, you have to look at the level of its authenticity. Is it at a low level? Is it at a mid-range level? If it's at a high level, no one disputes about that. No madhab does so. You have to consider all of those. So no one comes and attacks the madhab by saying Al-Imam Malik took the amal of Ahl Medina. No. But actually he made it even easier for you and I compared to those that took practices from ahadith and then they were not able to reconcile properly with how people practiced. Because I'll bring you to this issue which we're going to discuss when it comes to the hayatus salah. Basically the figures of prayer. How do you stand in prayer? When you see the Malikis doing this, hands down, as-sadil, this was amalu Ahl al-Madina. Why? Why is there no hadith mentioning about salah? Of course there is. And the Messenger ﷺ clearly said, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. And I will literally show you the hadith, how they literally present themselves and how they are reconciled according to the practice of the people of Medina. Why as-sadl took precedence in the madhab rather than al-qabdu, closing the hands. And on top of that, to show you that as-sadlu is not from the obligations of salah, but actually is from the smallest of sunnahs of salah. Because in the Maliki madhab we have levels. There is that which is fard, and then that which is sunnah, and then that which is mandub. In other madahib, to other scholars, sunnah and mandub is the same. I'm becoming a bit technical, I know, and I've got out of range, but I'm trying to explain to you this so you can understand. We talked about what? Touching the penis, isn't it? We talked about that. That's why all discussion, all of this discussion. You notice that, what was I talking about? As-sadlu wal-qabd. You notice that he says, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli, isn't it? Lakin you notice, what about the other hadith? Where do they stand? Are they ahadith ahad? What about their authenticity level? Where do they stand at the same time? And are there actually enough hadith to show al-qabd and that? And not only that, when we said about the levels of what? The darajat of actions when it comes to what? In the madhab. In the Maliki madhab, sunnah is higher than a mandub. That's why you notice in other madhahib, the sunnah mu'akkada and there is a sunnah ghayr mu'akkada. What is sunnah mu'akkada, sunnah ghayr mu'akkada? It's a highly recommended sunnah. And there is a non-highly recommended sunnah. But then in the madhab we say sunnah, that means that which is frequent in the life of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He frequently did it. A mandub, not that frequent. Something that he did now and then and it's fine. Understood? It's not something that you should dispute upon when it comes to someone worshipping Allah. But actually we've took that which is insignificant and made it significant and deluded people so much and diverted their attention from that which they should focus on. What you should focus on is the invalidation of your wudu and how do you protect it. That's what you should focus on. But is this correct? Is this correct? Is two salams correct? Is one salam? Come on, Habibi. Those are literally from the last thing that you want to even discuss about. Because if you miss a ruku' in your salah is invalid. From all of them madhahib. Nobody disputes about that. But why not understand how to do your ruku' properly rather than you're focusing on putting your hand down, closing your hands, putting your head up, putting your head up. Come. We don't want to do that. Understood? So we're going to conclude with this by saying, he said that وَبِمَسِّ الذَّكَرِ الْمُتَّصِلِ. He talks about al-muttasil, meaning that if a person has a whole penis, or the person that his penis is what? Is cut. Someone who has a piece of his penis. Because some people, you notice that we have a eunuch. Do you know eunuch? A eunuch is a person that his testicles is removed. The Ottoman Empire, when it existed, they had people from Africa. Men that were brought in from Africa, and these people were called as eunuchs. Eunuch or a eunuch, if I'm not wrong. Why would they call this? What they call this name is because they had their testicles removed. That's what it means. When they explain about this, so that they don't. Some of them say that it's because so that they don't desire the women of the harem. basically the women of the sultans, so they can serve the sultan. This person, what do you do in this case? Do you get what I mean? But when we talk about the actual organ, if the person does not have the full organ, then there's a discussion over here, which you shouldn't really delve into. But all of what you know, if you touch your organ, khalas. Understood? Only if you touch your organ with this side of your hand, the outer side of your hand, this one, then the outer side, you haven't nullified your wudu. But if you touch with the taraf al-asabi', let's say the edges of your hand, of your fingers, or maybe the inside of your fingers, or maybe your palm, or maybe your fingers, even if you touch, khalas, intaha. You have done what? Nullified your wudu. Understood? أو مس ذكر ببطن الكف أو إصبع أو امرأة بالخلف. Bear that in mind. ببطن الكف, with this, which is the palm of your hand, أو إصبع, or maybe your finger, even if it's طرف الأصابع, the corners of your fingers, you have nullified your wudu. But when it comes to not بطن الكف, which is the outer part of your hand, then you're fine. Understood? Is that very clear? And we'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala. Fiqh class are always long, because on a normal day we're gonna maybe carry on until 10 o'clock, but we don't want to do that, inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Does anybody have a question before salah? Yes.
I was going to say, for that point in the assumption, does it only apply to yourself or someone else as well?
When it comes to someone else, as far as I know, it does not nullify your wudu. Lakin, don't take my word for it until I basically go through the mas'ala again, and then I come and what is it? I forgot the term, subhanAllah. Yeah, basically I clarify it to you clearly. Yes.
When you were talking about zawal al-aql, removal of
Yes.
sanity,
Yes.
the example you gave would be that it happened between the salah and the Dhuhr salah wasn't upon that person because the aql was removed. Then next it goes on to talk about aghmi alayhi. No. So the person that faints, are they in that same situation?
Same situation. Yeah.
So someone that faints, if they're cold, they're knocked out, the time of salah has passed, and they were still faint, they were still in the situation. That salah is not upon them until they come around.
We'll come to those issues. Lakin, I'll make it very simple for you. For the two people, because the problem comes here when it comes to a person who apostated. An apostate who just literally comes back to Islam while Dhuhr has ended and now it's Asr time. Understand this? It's Asr time. Or maybe it's nearly the end of Asr. Do you still tell this person to pray Dhuhr and Asr together or no? Because this person apostated. But when it comes to Ighma, someone who fainted, or someone who became insane, or maybe they became drunk, because you can become drunk but you're still in the fold of Islam. You don't become a kafir. Not like today when someone decides not to boycott, they're called a kafir straight away. I literally heard about this yesterday and I was shocked to the end of my mind. Someone told me the new fatwa that's out there, the Ummah decided to say anyone that does not boycott, basically brands, not even the opponents and the enemies and all of those, no. To literally boycott brands, this person is a kafir. I'm like, what happened to us?
So just because I bought good from Mustafa, now become a kafir?
Yeah. And this is the same person that will order food from outside and then they will buy the 1.5 litre Pepsi. Now, coming to the issue of that, al-ighma'u, I'll come back to you, yeah? Al-ighma'u, fainting and all of those. If a person gains their sanity, or maybe their afaqa, which is basically they wake up after fainting, and maybe they come back to their senses after being drunk and that, and they were Muslims, of course, isn't it? If Salatul Dhuhr has passed, in the madhab we have something called waqtul ada' and waqtul darura. إيقاعها في الاختيار غنم وفي الضروري الأداء والإثم. Bear that in mind. Now this is something you'll come to understand. And actually it is a mercy in the madhab. Not every madhab provides it, except the Maliki madhab. The Maliki madhab to me is unique, I'll be honest with you. There's so much mercy in it. Especially when it comes to Satrul Awra, covering private parts, you see how beautiful it is. How easy it is, especially in an age of today, such as today. Bear that in mind. If a person attains basically their sanity again in all of these cases, in Salatul Asr, they pray their Dhuhr and they pray their Asr. Is that clear? They pray their Dhuhr and they pray their Asr. But what if they attain sanity literally just 5 minutes before the end of Asr and the Dhuhr has not been prayed, and this person does not have enough time to do wudu and pray Asr? What does he do? They only do wudu and pray Asr, Dhuhr is forgiven. No, they have to pray the Dhuhr, but they have to do the Asr first. Sorry. They have to do the Asr. There's a lot of mas'ala over here, which that's why I didn't want to get into it. My mind is not prepared for it. Because do you do Asr first or do you do Dhuhr first? Do you do Dhuhr first or do you do Asr first? How do you order them up? Understood? Dhuhr is not forgiven, sorry. But when I say about Dhuhr being forgiven, I was referring to the mas'ala of Ridda. A person who apostated. A person who apostated, that person literally has started afresh. So you pray the salah that's entered at your time, not the salah that has gone. Is that clear? Like on these other masail, what do you pray first? The current salah or the previous one, then the current one? Or do you pray the previous one, basically, or the current one, then like that? Do you see the confusion? I don't want to get into it now. Yes. Yes. So don't really confuse yourself. Don't go into that. Does anybody have a last question? That's it. Yes.
So as I was saying, as you're saying about the is when you buy a product that's about Israel.
No, let's close that chapter. We're not talking about that. Yes. Yes.
Okay, how do
He wanted first, just leave. Yes.
If you're cleaning for minors, I'm probably only touch the private parts and probably their poses or something. Does that involve
if you clean whom?
Clean up for minors?
Yeah. That's why next week, inshallah, we're going to carry on with this issue. Because there's certain issues which, that's why we said the issue of al-lams, which is literally intending to touch. This includes the touching of the private part, the front private part, the back private part, the age of the person that you're touching, and all of that. Like to just summarize for you, to make it very simple, and we're going to come and elaborate a little bit. If you're washing your child, for both genders, you're fine. Understood? Yes. No,
it's okay.
Sure. Adhan time, yes.
Just quickly, is that the same for all madhabs?
No, not every madhab, no. But for this one, yes. The Shafi'i madhab would never allow you to do that. They wouldn't even blink. They don't even allow you to touch your wife, man. Come on. They're very stingy on that. Now, how?
If you have a shower, for example, and you dry yourself in the towel, but by accident you touch yourself, does it still...
Repeat your wudu. Khalas, intaha. Well, you shouldn't have touched yourself like this. You should have touched yourself like this. Or you could wear gloves. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم. يا الأمين. Keep this one. Hamza. Oh yes. You have one. That's for Hamza. Keep it for him. Push it up a little bit. Sit a little bit more. Down. That's it. You need to go to this.
they are people who are allowed to they can be there and each design. So that's why I said I'm learning from there. But naturally, people
Where's the sun? It's okay, Azan. It's almost Azan.
If anything was let me know. But this is the good thing is, it's an encouragement to learn. He's got on YouTube. If you check his YouTube channel, he's teaching. So